Go ahead.
When we bring that inner focus, sharpen it, become curious about very, very subtle, minor differences in sensation of balance, in sensation of center. It's like those sensations become amplified in some way. And
It's the difference between knowing and being ignorant, I think, in a way.
yeah. And if you're curious about that, if you allow yourself to be curious about that and sort of just stay with it, no expectations, but just stay with those little minor adjustments, always towards center, always towards balance. The sensation of balance itself is notable, it's remarkable. It's a sensation unlike the quote normal sensations that we have, because normally we're over adjusting, or I am. You're aware of tension, so you adjust the other way. These are just that center point, that point of balance, which is never perfect for me because it's fluid, it's not static for me. Okay, but it's like, okay, if this is the balance to begin with, and then you spiral in, and this is the balance that you're shooting for, this little tiny little variation in balance, it's bringing me more towards the center. And the sensation of being physically centered is remarkable.
You know, the great Alexander teacher said, you never know what right is, but you know what wrong is. Before you didn't know what wrong was, and right was an inconceivable idea. But so we're not trying to be right, but we're getting somewhere. We're on a journey, and we become more and more knowing of. I know what wrong is, and then when we're right, we don't know anything. That's it. That's it. But then, we kind of get stuck a little bit. But then we know what stuck is, and then when you're right, there's no such thing as right, but when you're right, you don't know fucking anything. There's no reference point. It's shunyata, total. Shunyata. You might be touching shunyata, but you can't own it. You can't fixate. It's not a thing that can be held in the hand, but it can be experienced, and then you have to kind of go through the whole thing a few hundred more million times, and that's it. You just go through this. You know when you're wrong, and then you get right, so to speak. Even though there's no idea of right. It's absurd.
It takes a certain amount of focus, and for me, the focus is an inner focus of sensation, and it's as if, for me, again, I don't know that it would be for anybody else, but for me, it's like when I'm out of balance, there's a part that is having to compensate for that being out of balance. Some muscles, some structural elements of the spine, whatever, is having to hold me up because I'm out of balance one way or the other. And if you're unaware of that, then you become aware through tension and through tiredness and fatigue and through pain.
Irritation, suffering.
Yeah, but if you're aware of that and you bring yourself back into balance, even if it's for a short period of time in the beginning, there is a remarkable feeling of balance and lightness because you're not having to compensate. You're not having to hold your body in a particular uncomfortable way to compensate for the fact that you're out of balance. So for me, being in balance is a feel. When I find that balance, it's a feeling of paradoxical lightness. It's like you rise up just a little bit because your body is not pushing up. It's just drawn up by that balance.
Perfect. Well said. But let's keep going. So I don't know, this teaching you about how to release the lower back. I spent 30, 40 years trying to arch my back, and it was not working, but I couldn't come up with anything better. Gary and I have worked on something called, you've done some glide walking, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a million ways to slice this thing, but glide walking is one thing. You walk and your hip wants to release back with that back leg. And usually we don't let it, but you just let it, and that's called glide walking. It's a little, on the cushion, you can work it out, but it's subtle, and a lot of the work I've done is bowing on the best thing. One of the best things I do on the meditation cushion is whenever I'm a little flummoxed or I just need some help, I just do a little short bow. So head leads up, but your body follows up, and you're bending from your lower. Let's just go. Nothing. Don't let the head go down. Let the head lead up. Yeah, that's right. Okay, now we're gonna go back. In a way, going back is when you can really get something going a lot of times. How was that?
Nice.
Should we try it again? Let me lead you.
We shall.
This time you'll have a lot better, clear idea. I'm just going to lead you with the head or so. I won't get down there in the back so much. But the head leads. We're just going to go forward, bending from down low. We're not bending from our midsection. Yes. We don't really need to put any more weight on our arms. We can just support ourselves. Yes. And now this little moment here, we could really fly if it came back right. We could really fly when we came back. So let's come back with the head leading. Somehow the back finds what that straight, strong thing is back there. All by itself, it just finds it. Just finds what being really nicely. How is that?
Very nice.
You kind of find it's like you got to bend from the hips, which we don't do. We bend from our lower back, or we arch our lower back if we're trying too hard to figure this out. But you just find you just find out something by playing around. Okay. So, 7 points of posture. Legs are loosely relaxed and folded nicely. Sitting on the center of our seat. Okay. Gary and I, we've done this before, but I think it's would be a good time to do this again. What you want to do, Gary, is make a fist. You done this, remember this?
Not yet.
Make a fist, and you put the fist right here on both sides. And you're going to slowly take some of the weight off of your butt by putting it into your fist, and just almost lift yourself off the cushion. Not really, but a little of weight. Just lift yourself off the cushion with your fists, pushing. And when you do that, and then when you ease back down again, you're going to find that all of a sudden you're on top of your sit bones. You're going to discover your sit bones. You're going to discover how you can sit on top of your sit bones. Did you find those?
I think so.
Does that help you? You want to try it again? Go through it again? As you ease back down, you should find yourself a little better situated on top of your sit bones and able to feel your sit bones. You got 2 bones right down here, called your sit bones. And usually we're sitting a little behind because we're backing up in our cave and we haven't found our sit bones, and we don't want to ride the horse of freedom from laziness yet. We just want to be lazy, and we don't want to make the effort of having a warrior seat. But a warrior seat means you're on top of or in front of those sit bones, not behind. And that all that little idea of an outer idea of center of seat's going to really help us. Not be too far forward our sit bones, not be too far back. Find they're just the right spot. There's only one right spot. If you're that far too forward, it's too far forward, not on the right spot. That far too far back, not on the right spot. There's just a spot where it aids us to find sitting on top of our sit bones. And usually people will do this and they'll just arch their back to find their sit bone. And they just put a whole lot more tension in the system, and the whole thing is set back 20 years. But if you can do it without doing that, just not put extra arch. I mean, it's going to be an arch probably, but you don't need to do the arch. Just get on top of the sit bones and let a natural curve come into it without trying to force that curve. I made a mistake for many years trying to force that curve, because that curve is needed, but can't force it. Best thing to do is just bend forward. Let's try it again. Bend forward, bend forward, bend forward, bend forward, bend forward. Head leads, head leads, head leads. Now let the head lead back. You're hunching a little bit. You don't want that hunch necessarily. That's a Tibetan bow. We want the Japanese bow here, which is not hunched. How's that? Does that forward thing kind of help you find that sit bone and find the top of it and find the front of it? How does that feel to you?
It's good. There's, in a lot of traditions, there's a little bit in meditation, in some traditions, there's a little bit of rocking back and forth that just occurs.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
And I think it's rocking back and forth across that center.
Suzuki Roshi talks about this. He says every time you start meditating, just do what Gary's doing.
Yeah, it's just minute rocking back and forth.
He says you can go side to side, which I never do because it doesn't give me as much, but this one gives me a ton.
Moving my jaw side to, my head side to side, I understand that. I don't move my body side to side.
I think it could work. I find the front and back so good.
Yeah.
I never get over to the side to side, but either one could work. But that front and back works, man.
Yeah, particularly coming back.
Yeah, it's like going forward you give, but it's like the Shambhala bow. You give, but then when you arise and awake as the Rigdon King, it's when you go back and arise and awake as the Rigdon King,
And again, it's paradoxical, but it's like moving forward but falling back. There's a tiny, tiny sensation of falling.
You're surrendering the whole time. You're surrendering to heaven the whole time.
And I don't know, particularly for me, the sensation of falling back is
Time to stop.